Can the VinFast VF9 save the brand? Will it save the brand? I'm Jay, this is Modern Motoring, and let's see how good the facial tracking is on my Canon 6D. All right, pretty good. So 2025 VinFast VF9 3-row SUV, and we're gonna dig into it. And there's a lot to talk about, and it's gonna be a longer video, and there are time markers, so if you wanna get to a certain spot, whether it's perks, quirks, irks, or pricing, you can do that. It'd be cool if you watch the whole video, but it's an important vehicle for VinFast after the catastrophe that was the VF8 launch and the VF8 itself. Here's hoping for the brand that the VF9 brings back some of those customers, or maybe get some new ones, but there are a fair amount of irks and things that I feel shouldn't be the way they are for a 2025 vehicle. Let's get in and go for a drive in the 2025 VinFast VF9. Let's get started with some baseline numbers. So it's 123 kilowatt per hour battery, 402 horsepower, and 457 pound-feet of torque, and it's all-wheel drive. So far, so good. Charging speed maxes out at 150 kilowatts, and VinFast says that you can go from 10 to 70% in 35 minutes. This weighs 6,417 pounds. For comparison, the Ioniq 9 and the EV9 weigh around 5,900 pounds, so significantly heavier. Let's get to the range, because that's a pretty big part of looking at an EV. The lower trim Eco rings in at 518 kilometers, and the higher trim Plus, which is what this is, comes in at 462. So not too bad, still has real world capabilities. On the cargo side of things, with that third row up, it's 212 liters of cargo space. Put that third row down, and that goes up to 926. There is a front trunk slash frunk, and that gets you 100 liters. Onto the perk side of things, and it's got a very unique exterior look, and I, for what it's worth, think it looks fantastic. It looks like a station wagon because it's so low compared to the EV9 Ioniq 9. It's got that nice low slung profile, and there are short overhangs, so it looks really cool. And there's that cool pattern between the second row and third row windows where it kind of pinches in a little bit, looks like an hourglass on its side. You got a light bar up front and a light bar around the rear, and it looks the part. Another perk are the two massive air scoops in the hood, and I can't think of the last time I've seen a vehicle with air scoops that big. And good on you, VinFast, for making this as aerodynamic as possible, knowing that it is a 3-row SUV. The head-up display comes in 3 colors. It's blue, green, or white. And I remember the Kia something from like 6-7 years ago had that as well, and I was impressed then. And finally, the third-row passengers get their own little sunroof, and I think that is wonderful and fantastic. Onto the quirk side, there is a pet mode. Now, it's a part quirk, part irk. Never leave your pets in the car. Don't be an idiot. Just don't do that. No excuse for it. But if you do leave your pet in the car for whatever reason, there's a pet mode, and it cranks up the air conditioning, and there's a little message that comes on. Please don't worry. The climate is still on to make sure my pet is comfortable. I'll be back shortly. Now, you can also edit the message to say whatever you want. The trip reset, which is a button at the end of the turn signal stock, pulled straight out of BMW. Same thing with the wiper controls. You can change what it does. It can be a trip reset. You can change your regen. You can change it to control your drive modes and a couple of other things. There's the sit to start function. Definitely not a new technology, but still an interesting one. And that goes along with the extremely minimalist theme in here. And I think this is a little more minimal than Volvo's new crop of vehicles, so there's that. And the last quirk is that there are only 4 cup holders in a vehicle that's equipped for either 6 or 7. I get 2 up front, and there are 2 in the second row. Now, I'm in a 6-seater configuration. You got to pay 1,550 Canadian extra dollars to get those 2 captain's chairs. And now it's time for the Irks section of the review. I'll start with the drive feel. It is rougher than it should be for something that costs almost $80,000 Canadian MSRP before anything else is added on. The drive feel is slow, it's sluggish, it's feeble, it's timid, it's uninspiring, and frankly, it's disappointing and unacceptable in 2025 with all of the technology we have. And I don't feel it has to be this way. Going from a dead stop to starting, there's a lag. There's a good half second, 3/4 of a second lag. And you don't get that with any other electric vehicle. And maybe it's the 6,417 pounds of this that has to be got up and gotten, or not got up and gotten, just to be brought from a stop to going in motion. But it's a really slow acceleration process, and the steering feels numb, and it's loud in the cabin. You feel all the bumps. The suspension just isn't up to par for even a basic electric vehicle. And think of the Kia Niro, think of the Hyundai Kona, or even the Blazer EV. And a lot of these smaller EVs feel much better and for significantly less money. So if drive feel is a key factor for you, I can't say that this VF9 performs well at all. And there are a couple of redeeming factors. You know, once you're up and going and you're on the highway, never mind the excess road noise, it smooths out a little bit. And it does the things that it's supposed to do as an EV, right? It just, every other condition leading up to that, whether it's back roads or an urban situation, it just, I don't see how the drive feel can be of such low quality of a vehicle of such high price. The turning radius is also unacceptable, and I don't need it to do the tightest of turns. And I realize it's a 3-row SUV, and it's big and it's long and it's heavy, but even, you know, a extra quarter turn on the steering wheel as far as what can be enabled or how it was engineered or designed would make the world a difference. Because again, if you are in an urban situation, urban world, urban conditions, school drop-offs, shopping mall parking lots, and whatever else there is, it's going from a simple 3-point turn to 5, 6, 7, 8. The blind spots with the A-pillars are huge. That's because the A-pillars themselves are huge, but the side mirrors are so closely designed and placed to those A-pillars that that big blind spot just extends even more. So yes, there is a 360 cam here, more on that later. The turn signals for me work about half the time, and that's both left and right. And what's really concerning is most of these malfunctions or inactivity happens on the highway, where I just want to push down gently, get my triple flasher engaged, do my lane change, and that's it. But it, again, half the time it doesn't happen normally, and I'd say about 75 to 80% on the highway, I've really got to pull down as hard as I can to get that turn signal engaged, to make sure I'm letting others know what I'm doing and where I'm moving my vehicle. And it's, again, it's unacceptable, and there has to be a better way. And they're old BMW turn signals, and a terrible point about that is it's the awful return to center style, as opposed to push down, stay down, push up, stay up. So there has to be a better way. There needs to be a better way. The blind spot monitoring hasn't worked once in my week of testing, and I don't know why. The lane keep assist is so jarring. Instead of it gently sliding you back into the center of the lane, it's just a hard jolt. It's intrusive, and maybe for some inexperienced drivers, that might risk causing an overreaction or potentially a collision, because if you're being just, again, aggressively pushed back in, you might not know how to react to that. These vegan leather seats are extremely stiff and hard. It's pretty flat, so there are minimal side bolsters, there are minimal thigh bolsters. There's no thigh extension for this, and for a brand that's positioning themselves as a luxury brand, it's a huge miss. And I went for my weekly drives. I go down south by Lakeshore and I go up into the country and put up about 350, 450 kilometers in my test phase, and it was bad. It was simply bad, and back to that word I keep coming to, unacceptable for this price point. And yes, on the Plus trim, they're heated and ventilated and massaged, but take all that away and give me a comfortable seat. And the seats in the second row are even worse. And go back to that third row, and it's like sitting on a chair of bricks. The door handles are over-engineered and just terribly designed. I understand the concept behind it. You put your thumb on the big part and the latch comes out, and then with these 4 fingers you pull. But if you have smaller hands, then it's a 2-hand process, or you're trying to grip at that handle part that comes out and you miss it. And I can't even imagine what's going to happen in the winter when it freezes, because it inevitably will. It's getting really hot. I'm not sure if you can see the sweat on my forehead, and I would love to close the sunshade, but you have to pay extra for one. It does not come with a sunshade. That is just a bonkers concept here. And I called the VinFast store. I'm like, how much is a sunshade? They're like, well, our parts guy isn't here for the week, so we don't know. And I can't do it on the website. Big problems with the website. I'll get to that later on. But this is just something that I can't believe is happening in 2025. And I know some of the luxury brands will nickel and dime you. And for example, to get a rear wiper on the electric Macan, it's a few $100. To exclude something as essential as a sunshade paired with a gigantic panoramic sunroof, there's the word again, it is unacceptable. The wireless charging up front never worked for me. The wireless charging in the rear never worked for me. The foot sensor to open the trunk didn't work for me at all, and this has been over the course of a week. It's so frustrating to have all of these bells and whistles and to have them either not work, partially work, or just not perform to match the price point. It's frustrating, it's disappointing, and I just don't see how this was allowed to happen. I just don't. Another irk for a 3-row SUV is there is no digital rear view mirror. Again, 360 cam, but they didn't think to put one in here. And if you have all those seats occupied, paired with the extremely thin rear window, I haven't seen anything this big for vehicle size with a rear window that's that thin to not have a digital rear view mirror. The 13-speaker audio system is bad, plain bad. I've played with the bass and treble, and it still sounds worse than AM radio. Give you 6 really good sounding speakers as opposed to 13 ones that sound, again, just poor and awful. Resolution on the backup camera is extremely low. At night, with minimal light, it is even worse. When you are using your surround view monitor / 360 cam, the angles on the cameras on the side mirrors are so weird, and I've never seen anything so peculiarly angled before. It's like that, as opposed to some kind of horizon line that gives you an actual sense of, okay, well, this is what's beside me. Like, cars are coming at you like this. At least that's what it looks like when it comes through the camera system. It should be an easy adjustment to fix. Again, I don't know what happened to quality assurance when this car made it out to the public. Here's a strange one. When you click the time and the odometer at the top left of the screen, you can either have the time and odometer showing, so it says, or the time and outdoor temperature. So I picked time and outdoor temperature. It's 12:35, it's 28 degrees. But when I go into my CarPlay, the time goes away. And then if I go to time and odometer and I put my CarPlay on, the time goes away. I know there's a clock on CarPlay, but I don't know why I just can't have both. I don't know why there are running boards on this size of vehicle, but there are, and I've hit my shin getting in every single time, and I've hit my calf getting out, and it's an awkward process. It's just so cumbersome. This doesn't need to have running boards. This is a small by standards vehicle. If it's a pickup truck or something big and massive and raised, sure. But this is a very low vehicle by industry standards. You do not need running boards. Because this is a low vehicle, headroom kind of suffers, especially in that third row with those seats that feel like bricks. Your knees are pretty much right up into your chest because the seats have to stay low because you can't put them higher because there's not really any room to put them higher. So I wouldn't put anybody in that third row. Last Irk is on the website, and the majority of buttons don't work. I went to try and check out the specs, nothing. And a bunch of other buttons along that whole top bar don't work. I went to the builder. For 2025, it shows you can get the Eco and price that out, but this Plus wasn't available to do anything with. And for 2024, it was the opposite. Let's get wrapped up with pricing and competition. So 2 trims again, Eco and Plus, 74,890 Canadian MSRP for the Eco. Add 4,000 of that for 78,890 for the Plus. And if you want to get the 6-seater configuration with the captain's chairs, it's an extra $1,550. And there are some paid upgrade for exterior paint options coming in a little over $1,000. On the competition side, there are 2 direct ones, one far away one and one further away one. So the Hyundai Ioniq 9 Canadian MSRP 64,999, and that gets you between 500 and 515 kilometers of range, and you can charge it up to speeds of 350 kilowatts. Staying within that family, the Kia EV9 64,995, so $4 less than the Ioniq 9, 455 kilometers of range, and the 350 kilowatt charging speed. So those are your direct ones, and that is $10,000 to $14,000 less. Far away is the Volvo EX90, $110K to $116K on the Canadian MSRP side. So not quite double this, but creeping up there. 483 to 499 kilometers of range, charging speeds at 250 kilowatts. And then in a completely different stratosphere is Rivian, and that is about double the price, starting around 140,000 Canadian MSRP. That's going to wrap it up for the VinFast VF9, and there's a lot of disappointment here, and it's better than the VF8 as far as build quality goes. But if you're trying to compete in this segment in North America, it's got to be better. It just has to be better. I don't know how something with so many flaws and misses was approved and allowed to come out to market. And I know Canada has a certain set of requirements and safety qualifications to get a car legalized and on the road, but I'm not saying it's unsafe, but there are far too many things in and around it, fit and finish and technology, and just simple things like a turn signal not working all the time. It's just not good. It's not good, and I'm not hating on VinFast, and I think they can do better. I hope they do better, and I want them to do better. This isn't better. It shouldn't have come out when it did. I would have much rather them sit tight and go, you know what, we're going to put the release off for 6 months and really give this a solid quality test and really just make sure it competes, even with base model vehicles in the class. Not everything has to be fancy and full of technology and bells and whistles. It just has to do the basic things right, and a lot of that's missing here in the VinFast VF9. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll get you answers as soon as possible. I invite you to join our social media platforms. We are on all of the major ones. Without you, there is no modern motoring. So I thank you, I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.